In this final video, we're going to discuss the offer received section of the net sheet. Now, you may already notice this video is a little bit longer, but keep in mind, we'll be able to cut this short, and then the end of it's going to show you some other tools that as soon as you realize you got what you need, you can cut the video off and go from there, so it won't take that long. So again, we're going to walk through our client, all these preliminary numbers, and we're going to let them know that, look, this is us making sure that you are making a safe and smart move with your home. And we want them to sign that so that we're all on the same page and they understand they're not about to walk away from selling their home and not being able to afford their future home. Now, again, we get an offer in hand. Say they actually went to actually list for the price we suggested them to list for. Or maybe they want to go a little bit higher. Say they said, let's go for $369.9. And again, it is your client. And as long as they're asking you to do legal things, you have to do what your client asks you to do. So let's see here. And also keeping in mind that the list price is distinctly different than the offer price. So again, you get an offer in hand, and let's just say the offer came in at $349. You know what? Today's market's kind of crazy. So let's say instead it actually came in at $355, and who knows? So we have that in there. So again, update everything in this section according to what's actually on the offer and in MLS. Leave what you preliminary spoke with them about on the left-hand side. Did you make any adjustments to commission between the preliminary discussion and going to market? Nope. Well, then let's make those sections match up. In practice, it would have been better to make all these sections match what was on the left whenever you started with them, though. A little clumsiness in my video there. All right. Deed stamps is automatically calculated based on what the offer price is if you were to close at that number. Attorney's fees, we leave that in there. Again, let's leave that at $295 because the client's going to cover the closing fee. Stopple fee, let's just say, well, it's a seller's market, and you were able to negotiate out of them having to pay the transfer fee that the buyer is going to pay for that. Excellent. So leave that as zero. Now, no matter what, we're going to leave some amount of money in the buyer's request to repair section, because remember, this is at the offer stage. You're not under contract, you're not ratified. This is at the offer stage, and there's still going to be an inspector coming in, and they're still going to ask for something. Even if it's an as-is sale, I wouldn't take that offer here. But again, you and your client, you decide how to handle that part. Again, being a seller's market, let's say that you get out of paying the CO100 and you get out of paying the homeowner's warranty, but maybe their lending, the buyer's lending just really needs a little bit of seller page closing cost in there. So you leave that $1,000 in there. Again, this is all based on the offer. You're not making this up. And so at the bottom, they can look at how the numbers came out. And again, this is what helps with that conversation of, you'll have those clients that say, I've got no reason to pay a buyer's closing fees. I've got no reason to pay for somebody else's warranty. Well, let's look at it this way. We walked into this whole situation expecting for you to walk away with $126,000 as an estimate. This contract, as it's written, gets you $125,500. Is that close enough to sign and go on with this? Is it so far away that you either want to counter or decline it? And there, it kind of takes a lot of the angst out of that discussion of, sure, you can counter that, but what is your aim? Do you really want that 126? If you want that 126, then hopefully the client will leave part of that negotiating back in your hands where, well, maybe they really need that $1,000. Then leave the $1,000 closing cost, but let's push this number, let's counter with them to put that $1,000 back up there, which their lending might allow that as long as they can still get the $1,000 closing cost. So don't just look at that bottom dollar number and say, oh, we got to cut that out, Use it to negotiate different pieces of the deal, of the contract, to get both what the seller wants and what the buyer needs. Keep that in mind. Now we're going to dive into some other tools. If that's all you needed to hear about the net sheet, you're good to go. I did want to share that on our agent resources page on our website, teamworkrealty.com/resources, there's a couple things worth knowing. So we do have a copy of the net sheet out there in Google Sheet format. So what I've been showing you is in dot-loop. Whenever you start a listing loop in dot-loop, you're going to have to fill one of these in. It's a required piece of the contract. But if you want to play with this, you want to get used to it. Granted, the net sheet that's in Google Sheets looks a little bit different than this format, but I think you'll be able to walk through it. Don't hesitate to reach out and ask questions. I'm not going to make a whole video about that one. Over time, I'll probably tweak that Google Sheet to look more like the dot-loop sheet. Nonetheless, click through that. You can see some of the equations. You can see how the spreadsheet works. By clicking this, it makes a copy of it so you don't mess up the original Google Sheet. It makes a copy of it that you can save yourself. Now, but also the mortgage balance calculator, I did want to walk you through that in this video. Again, at any point in time, if you've gotten what you need, you're good to go. So using that prior example, let me see here where we said, these were our guesstimates, but say that they either don't know what their payoff is, or or just, they weren't willing to tell you. It's more likely the situation, not that they don't know, more likely they're not willing to tell you. But we can look back and CRS data. We can look back at county records. We can quite readily find out that, oh, they paid $275 for this property. And we're going to do that number in both these first two fields on this mortgage balance calculator. Now, depending on when they bought it, if they bought the home back in the 70s, they probably paid a good 5 or 6% interest rate. They probably refinanced since then. But if they bought it anytime in recent years, we know their interest rate's probably going to be more between 4%, maybe 5%. But let's just go ahead and let's put 3.5% as a guess, complete guess of what their interest rate is. We're generally going to guess they did a 30-year loan. Most everybody does a 30-year loan. And when is the first mortgage payment? Some of this gets a little bit too granular to really matter, but nonetheless, look in CRS data, see when the last mortgage was on the home, and if that mortgage was in January. All right, if they mortgaged it in January we're going to say it says January of 2010. So February of 2010 would have been their first mortgage payment on this home. So again, there's a lot of guesstimates happening here, a lot of guesstimates, but click the tab button. And this tells us it is estimating their payoff to be $204,000. So you take that 204, don't get so accurate down to the single dollars and cents. $204,000. When you write this sheet up for them, put 2 or 4 on there and say, look, just pull in public data. Could be off, but pull in public data. I'm guessing you owe around $200,000 on your home. Given my research on what you could get for the home, and what it's going to cost you to sell the home, this is what you walk away with. So this is a good detailed way to do a listing presentation without already be in basically working with them as a client, just using public information that they haven't shared with you yet. They're going to be impressed that you already did all this legwork on their behalf just to try to win them over as a client. Not many agents do that, and that's why we do this. So again, don't hesitate, reach out with as many questions as you might have. Thank you.